Hello, hello. Welcome back to No Me Callo. I won't stay quiet. I'm your host, Jessica Lomelin. And today's episode is unlike anything I've ever recorded before. And I'm not going to lie, it's one of the hardest. Because this isn't just me sharing pieces of my story, this is me opening the door to the parts of myself I've tried to hide. The parts that hurt me the most, the parts that scarred me, the parts that I buried deep inside, hoping no one would ever see them. So I'm showing you those scars today. I'm letting you in because there's power in truth and there's healing in being seen, really seen, even in your most broken moments. So this episode is called From the Pain We Are Born, Del Dolor Nacimos, and I'm telling you, I know that pain. I felt it in my bones. I've carried it in my chest so heavy it felt like it might just crush me. I walked through darkness so thick I couldn't see the light. And I've been afraid of myself, of my thoughts, of the tears I couldn't hold back. I've been small, I've been silent, and I've been lost in places where I thought no one could ever find me. I felt alone, even when surrounded by people. And I've fallen hard, more times than I can count. I've let people's words, their judgments, their actions define me. I've let the world tell me I wasn't enough. And I've believed it for far too long. But here's the thing. Even in the darkest moments, even when I thought I'd disappear completely, even when I thought the pain might swallow me whole, something inside me refused to die. A tiny spark, a quiet voice, a whisper that said, Jessica, you are still here. Jessica, you matter. You belong. You will rise. And today, I want to share all of that with you. Every tear, every heartbreak, every moment I thought I couldn't go on. Because if you ever felt broken, if you ever felt lost, if you ever wondered if you belong, I want you to hear this. You are not alone. You are not broken beyond repair. From the pain, we are born. So you already know, get comfortable, grab your coffee, your cafecito, your glass of wine, or your cold beer, and get ready to chismear with me. I want to start with little me, the little girl I used to be. She was tall, taller than most her kids her age, taller than all the girls in the class. So they call her Giraffe. I didn't understand why being tall was so funny, but it made me feel different. Like my body didn't fit in the world around me. I also had short hair with a little bob haircut. And well, that got me another nickname, and it was Dora. And then glasses led down my nose constantly. And the kids didn't let me forget about that either, so they started calling me Ugly Betty. And when I got braces, that was just another reason to make fun of me. And there was my last name, Lomelin. That teacher stumbled over, a name kids whispered about. A name that made me want to disappear sometimes. Because everyone around me said it wrong or laughed when they tried to say it. And on top of everything, I didn't speak English at first. So I sat in classrooms being made fun of because kids noticed my accent. They noticed my hesitation. They noticed that I was different. And kids can be very cruel. I was bullied. I was laughed at for the way I talked, mocked for the way I looked, called names, pushed around, made me to feel small in a world that I already felt too big. And I wasn't just different. I was too much in every way. Too tall, too quiet, too awkward, too loud when I laughed, too shy when I stayed quiet. And I would come home and pretend I was fine. I would smile, I would laugh, I would act like nothing ever happened. But inside, I carried every word, every laugh, and every push. It settled in my chest like a stone. And a stone that made me feel like I just didn't belong anywhere. Not fully in one world, not fully in another. Too Mexican for some, too American for others. Not enough for either. And I remember there were times where I sat alone on the playground during recess, watching other kids run and play, laughing without a care, while I just held my books tight in my chest and hoped that no one would ever notice me. Hoping that no one would come near, hoping I could just fade away. And the worst part, I felt like I had to hide it. I had to hide the hurt, the embarrassment, the loneliness. Because if I showed it, if I cried in front of anyone, it would be more proof that I just didn't belong. And I hated myself for being different. And I really wish I could just shrink. I wish that I could have just woken up and looked like someone else. Someone who didn't get made fun of, someone who could blend in, someone who could just belong. But even in that pain, there was a part of me that refused to disappear completely. A small part in me whispered, "You are still here. You will survive this. You are more than what they say about you." And honestly, I wish I could go back and hug that little girl. I wish I could tell her, "You're not ugly. You're not too much. You are not a mistake. Your braces and your glasses and your height, your accent, they don't make you less. They make you unique. They make you strong. You belong." But I couldn't go back then. And all I could do was survive. All I could do was carry that pain inside me every day, hoping that it wouldn't break me completely, hoping that one day somehow I will learn to see myself the way that I deserve to be seen. And that's the thing about pain. When you carry it for too long, it doesn't stay in your childhood. It follows you. And it finds new ways to hurt you. It creeps into your teenage years, into your 20s, into your relationships, into your choices. And I carry that little girl's pain with me for years. And it shaped me in the way that I saw myself. It shaped me in the way that I allow others to treat me. And it shaped me in the way that I loved. And sometimes the way I didn't love myself at all. And well, all of that turned into depression. And let me tell you something about depression. It's not just about sadness. It's not just about crying. It's emptiness. A hollow in your chest that doesn't go away. It's waking up in the morning and already feeling like you've lost before the day even starts. It's laughing with friends, going through the motions, but inside, feeling like you're disappearing. It's being in a crowded room, surrounded by people, and still feeling completely invisible. It's looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back. And I hid it well. I smiled, I joked, I worked hard. I threw myself into everything, and on the outside, it looked like I had it all together. But inside, I was breaking, piece by piece, day by day. And I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to ask for help. And well, somewhere along the way, I learned that being strong meant staying quiet. So I did. I stayed quiet, even when my chest felt like it was just caving in, even when the nights were the hardest, even when I thought I might not make it to the next day. And then I went to university. I thought it would be different. And well, I thought maybe being somewhere new and now living in Chicago by myself, having my own apartment, it would allow me to meet new people, learn new things, that it would make me feel like I belonged. But no, it didn't. Because everywhere I looked, I felt like an outsider, like I was too much or not enough. Like no one really saw me for who I was. And the pain I thought I had left behind when I was younger, and it came back with full force. I remember sitting in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, and feeling this heavy weight pressing down on me. I felt so alone, even when surrounded by people, even when smiling at my classmates, even when going to lectures, participating in group projects, acting like I was fine. I wasn't fine, though. I felt small, I felt invisible. I felt like my body and my mind were just betraying me. And then the thoughts came, the dark ones. The ones that whispered that maybe it would be easier if it just ended. And I tried not to listen at first. I told myself, don't think like that. You'll be okay. You can handle it. But the thoughts kept coming. And one night, I even started planning it. I thought through it, when, where, and how. And I convinced myself I was just being practical. But the truth, I didn't want to be here anymore. I felt trapped. Trapped in my body, trapped in my mind, trapped in a world where I didn't belong. I felt like I had no one to turn to, no one who would understand, no one who would see me. And in those moments, I cried. I cried until I had no tears left. I cried until my chest hurt so badly I could barely breathe. And I cried until I thought the pain would swallow me whole. And I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know if anyone could help me at that point. But somehow I survived. Somehow I woke up the next day. Somehow I went to class. Somehow I put one foot in front of the other. And looking back now, I realize how brave that was, how much strength it took me to even exist in those moments. Because every single day I woke up, even when I didn't want to, I was choosing life. And even when the darkness was screaming louder than anything else, I kept going. And that's the thing I want people to understand. Depression is not weakness. Feeling suicidal is not weakness. It doesn't make you broken beyond repair. It makes you human. It makes you strong in ways that most people will never see. Because surviving that pain, surviving those thoughts, surviving the nights when you feel completely alone, that is real courage. But the pain needed somewhere to go. And that's when I turned into drinking. At first, it seemed harmless, casual, normal, a paloma after school to unwind, a drink with friends to laugh a little louder, to feel a little lighter. It felt like fun. It felt like a way to belong, a way to escape, just for a little while. But little by little, it stopped being about fun. It stopped being about laughter or socializing. It became about survival. And I really just drank to numb the thoughts that wouldn't leave me alone. The voices that whispered, "You're not enough, you'll never be enough, you don't belong." And I drank to escape the crushing loneliness that really waited on me even when people were around. And I drank so I wouldn't feel like such a failure, so I could pretend to myself and to the world that I was okay, that I was strong. And for a few hours it worked. For a little while, I could laugh without thinking, and for a little while I could feel lighter, like maybe everything wasn't so heavy. Like maybe I could survive another night. But when the bottle was empty, the pain didn't go away. It was still there. Worse even. Sharper. Louder. Every thought I tried to ignore came rushing back in full force. And there were mornings I woke up with my head pounding, my stomach twisting in knots, and my mouth tasted like regret. And my hands shook from the effort of getting out of bed, and flashes of the night before, conversation, mistakes, fights, the things I said and I did while drunk. And they would all crash into me like waves I couldn't escape. So I would stand in front of the mirror and look at myself, barely recognizing the person staring back. And I would say, "What are you doing, Jessica? Who are you becoming?" And for a moment, I hated her. I hated myself. But I didn't know what else to do. Because the truth was too heavy. The truth was that I was hurting, that I felt completely lost, that I didn't know how to carry all that pain I had been carrying for years. In drinking, it gave me a momentary relief. It made the world quieter, and it made my thoughts softer. So instead of stopping, I poured another drink the next night, and the night after that, and the night after that. And there I was, making sure I went out and I drank Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, rinse, repeat, and it wasn't about having fun anymore. It was just what I did to get through. And by Monday, I dragged myself back to reality, pretending everything was fine, and then I would start it all over again. It became a cycle I couldn't break, because facing the truth felt unbearable, because looking at myself honestly, at my failures, my pain, my loneliness, was too much to bear. And so I numbed myself. But even in the darkness of those nights, even in the haze of alcohol, somewhere deep inside, a tiny part of me was still screaming, "This isn't who you are. This isn't the life you're meant to live. You can't stay here forever." And that voice, that small, quiet voice, would become the spark that eventually pulled me out. But then there were the relationships. And I wish I could tell you I always chose people who loved me right, but I didn't. I chose people who lied to me, people who manipulated me, people who made me feel small, like my heart wasn't enough, people who made me question my worth every single day. And the hardest part, I stayed. I stayed because I thought, maybe if I gave more, loved harder, they would finally choose me. Maybe if I put myself last every time, maybe if I forgave one more lie, maybe if I pretended the hurt didn't exist, maybe they would finally love me the way I wanted. So I clung to broken love like it was the only thing keeping me alive, like their version of love, even if it hurt me, was better than nothing. But every time I stayed, I chipped away at myself, piece by piece, day by day. And I stopped listening to my gut. I ignored the red flags screaming at me. I dismissed the warning signs like I was too scared to admit the truth. I ignored the betrayal, the manipulation, the hurt, convincing myself, at least I'm not alone. And the truth is, I was lonelier in those relationships than I had ever been by myself. Sitting across from them, laughing at their jokes, smiling when they wanted me to. Inside, I felt invisible. I felt like a ghost in my own life, if that makes any sense. Like my heart had been handed over to someone else and now I couldn't find it again. I hated myself for staying. I hated myself for thinking I wasn't enough. I hated that I kept hoping they would change. I hated that I had given them all of me and I had nothing left. And it wasn't just a heartbreak, it was exhaustion. I was tired of just pretending I was okay. Tired from putting on a mask every day, every hour, every minute. Tired trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed. Tired from loving so fully that I forgot how to love myself, if I'm all honest. I stayed because I was terrified of being alone. And alone felt unbearable. Alone felt like admitting that I had failed. Failed to choose myself. Failed to protect my heart. Failed to survive without someone else holding me up. You know what the irony was in this? The cruelest part. Being with them made me feel more alone than I had ever been in my life. Like I was screaming for help while they were standing right next to me, deaf to everything I was saying. Some nights I would just cry quietly in the bathroom. Some nights I would cry into my pillows so no one would hear me. Some nights I felt like the tears would never stop, like my heart would never stop breaking. And I felt trapped, like I was stuck in someone else's story instead of living my own. And every morning I would get up and do it all over again, pretending I was fine, pretending I had control, pretending that I was strong. But I wasn't fine. I wasn't strong. I was surviving. Barely. So there were many nights I sat on the bathroom floor crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Crying until my vision blurred and I couldn't see anything but the hurt. Nights where the tears fell so heavy I thought they might just drown me. When each sob felt like it would just never end. And where my body shook so violently I thought it might just break into two. And there were nights I prayed to God. I whispered to the ceiling and I just said, please, just take this pain away. I can't do it anymore. I can't do this alone. And those prayers just felt like they disappeared in the void. And maybe you've been there too. Maybe you know what it feels like to love someone more than you love yourself. Maybe you know what it feels like to give and pour every ounce of your heart into someone else, only to have it return into pieces and lies and silence. And maybe you know what it feels like to break your own heart over and over, to sacrifice your happiness for someone who doesn't see it, to put their needs before your own every single day until you can't remember who you are. Maybe you know what it feels like to disappear, to vanish inside yourself, to hide behind smiles, behind laughter, behind the illusion that everything's okay, until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. That was me. I disappeared. I became a shadow of who I was. I became someone I didn't even know. I stopped speaking my truth. I stopped asking for what I needed. And I stopped believing that I deserved love, care, or even kindness. And I became invisible in my own life. And the worst part, even when people were around, even when I was with friends and when I laughed, I was still alone. Alone with the weight of my pain, alone with the memory of every betrayal, alone with the echo of every lie I had told myself just to survive another day. And in those moments, I hated myself. I hated that I stayed. I hated that I left myself be treated this way. I hated that I gave so much of me to people who didn't see me, but I couldn't stop. Because disappearing felt safer than facing the truth. Disappearing felt easier than fighting for myself. And so I left myself fade. Until all there was left of me was pain, silence, and tears. And maybe you didn't know this about me. I'm an only child. Yes, I have half siblings, but we don't talk. So for most of my life, it's really just been me. And let me tell you, being an only child made all of this even harder. When I was drowning in depression, heartbreaks, and toxic relationships, the loneliness felt unbearable. I didn't have a brother or sister to call in the middle of the night. No one to say, I get it, I've been there too. It was just a silence that was so loud it echoed inside me. And that kind of loneliness pushes you into dark places. For me, it meant pouring another drink, staying with people who tore me down, pretending that I was okay when I was anything but. Because when you don't have anyone else to lean on, you start telling yourself lies. You convince yourself that surviving, no matter how much it hurts, is enough. Even if surviving means breaking yourself into pieces over and over again. And so I did. I hit rock bottom more than once. Through the drinking, waking up with my head pounding, my stomach twisting, guilt and shame flooding, before my eyes even opened. Flashes of the night before, the things I said, the choices I made, and the heavy, suffocating weight of knowing I'd done it all again. Through the heartbreak, giving so much of myself to people who didn't see me, who didn't care, who left me empty every single time. Loving harder than I loved myself, hoping that maybe, just maybe, their love would be enough to fill the void I carried inside. And through the depression, the relentless voice in my head that told me over and over again, you're not enough, you'll never be enough. Why do you even try? The days when getting out of bed felt impossible. The nights when every tear felt like it was just crushing me from the inside. I was lost. Completely and utterly lost. And I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how to survive another day. I didn't know if I wanted to. But here's the thing. Sometimes rock bottom is where you finally hear the truth. The truth that nobody's coming to save you. The truth that people you trusted, the people you loved, the people you sacrificed yourself for, they aren't going to fix it. The truth that if you want to survive, if you want to live, if you want to feel even a little bit of joy again, you have to fight for yourself. And that is terrifying. Because when you're at your lowest, it feels like you don't have anything left to fight with. You feel raw, you feel exposed, weak, broken. But honestly, that's also when you're the strongest, because rock bottom strips you off of everything and it leaves you face to face with yourself, with that person you've been hiding from all this time. And that is when my healing started. It didn't start with some grand moment of clarity. It didn't start with someone saving me or telling me I was enough. It started with the smallest, quietest decisions. Getting out of bed when I didn't want to. Taking a shower when I didn't have the energy. Eating something even when my body felt heavy with emptiness. Saying no to people who didn't have my best interests at heart. Speaking my truth even if it trembled in my own voice. And those tiny moments, they added up. Little by little, I started reclaiming pieces of myself I had lost. Little by little, I began to remember who I was before the pain, before the lies, before the heartbreak. And slowly, I realized that I could survive, I could heal, and I could rise. Because even in the darkest, most hopeless places, there's always a spark. There's always a small voice whispering, you are still here, you can still fight, you can still live. And that voice became my lifeline. And no, it was not quick. And it wasn't pretty or easy either, because healing never is. There were relapses, days that I thought I finally was okay, and then I'd find myself curled up on the floor, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Moments where the past just came back out of nowhere, all these memories, regrets, mistakes, and I felt like I was just drowning all over again. And there were nights that I just wanted to run back to the same toxic people, the same habits, because it felt safer than facing the unknown. Because the unknown is terrifying. Because when you've been broken for so long, stepping into your own power feels like stepping into fire. But slowly, little by little, I started choosing myself. I started going to therapy, and it was hard, so hard, sitting there looking at myself in the mirror of someone else's eyes, and saying the things that I've been hiding for years. The shame, the guilt, the pain I thought no one could understand. I had to say it anyway. So I started journaling, pouring my thoughts onto paper, writing down the voices in my head, the memories that kept me awake at night, the fears that I didn't even say out loud. And with each word I wrote, I felt a little lighter, a little freer. Like I was taking back the space inside me that had been occupied by pain for so long. And I started talking to people I trusted, letting them see me, the real me, messy, broken, scared, angry, but still trying. And with each conversation, I realized that being vulnerable didn't make me weak. It made me human, and it made me strong. And I started learning that strength isn't silence. Strength isn't pretending you're okay. Strength is speaking up even when your voice shakes. Strength is asking for help even when it scares you. Strength is saying, I deserve better, I deserve to be seen, and I deserve to be loved. And slowly, painfully, I started to believe it. I started to believe that I was worthy, worthy of love, of peace, of belonging. Not perfect, not flawless, but worthy. And that's when the real healing began. Not in an overnight transformation, but in the quiet, everyday choices I made to put myself first, to say no when I needed to honor my own feelings, and to nurture my own heart. Because I realized something I wish I had known a long time ago. The person who had to save me was me. The person who had to fight for me was me. And the person who had to believe in me was me. And that, in the end, was enough. And let me tell you something. If you're listening right now and you're in that dark place, if you're drinking just to numb the pain, pouring another glass because the day feels unbearable, if you're staying with someone who doesn't treat you right because the thought of being alone terrifies you, if you're waking up every morning already feeling defeated, like the weight of the world is pressing on your chest before you even open your eyes, I need you to hear me. You're not alone. Even when it feels like the world has turned its back on you, even when the voices in your head are screaming you're not enough, and even when every tear you shed feels like it will never end, you are not broken. Broken doesn't mean you're unfixable. Broken doesn't mean you're weak. Broken doesn't mean you can't rise from the rubble of your own pain and rebuild yourself stronger than ever. You are not unworthy. Your worth is not measured by who left you, or who lied to you, or who didn't see you. Your worth is not determined by the nights you cried alone in the bathroom floor, or by the mistakes you made, or by the moments you thought you failed. Your worth is inside you, and it's been there all along, waiting for you to claim it. Your pain does not define you. Your mistakes do not define you, and your heartbreak does not define you. I know what it feels like to feel invisible, to feel like the weight of the world is pressing you down, to feel like your own heart is betraying you. And I know what it feels like to cry until your body trembles, to wish for escape, to stare at the ceiling and wonder if you'll ever feel alive again. But hear me, from that pain, you can be born again, just like I was. From the nights I thought I couldn't survive, to the mornings I forced myself out of bed, to the moments I reclaimed pieces of myself I had lost. I learned that even in the darkest, coldest places, there is a spark waiting inside of you. A spark that can grow into a fire. A fire that reminds you, I am here, I am enough, and I am worthy. And that fire is your rebirth, your chance to rise, your chance to say, I will not let that pain control me. I will not let my fear define me. And I will rise, and I will shine, and I will love myself fiercely. And there's a book that will stay with you. It will make you reflect and inspire you to reclaim your own power, and it's called The Distance Between Us, La Distancia Entre Nosotros by Reina Grande. And this book tells you the story of Reina's life growing up caught between two worlds, leaving Mexico as a child, facing poverty, family struggles, and the heartbreak of being separated from her parents. She writes honestly about feeling invisible, longing for love, and trying to survive when life keeps testing her. And what makes this book perfect for this episode is that it's about rising from pain, just like we talk about here. Reina shows up how the pain we carry from childhood, the heartbreak, and the loneliness we feel can shape us. But it doesn't have to define us. It's about reclaiming your voice, finding your strength, and realizing that even when the world seems against you, you can still rise and create your own path. So if you can, definitely check it out. And here's the truth I want you to carry with you long after this episode ends. The pain we feel, the heartbreak, the loneliness, the nights we cried ourselves to sleep, it's not the end of our story. It's the beginning. Because every scar you carry and every tear you've shed, every moment you thought you couldn't go on, it's proof that you survived. Proof that you've been fighting, even when you didn't know it. Proof that you're still here. And being here, being alive, being human, being raw, that's powerful. You can rise from the things that try to break you. You can reclaim the pieces of yourself that were lost. You can step into your own life and say, I will not be defined by pain. I will not be silenced, and I will not be small. It's not easy. It's messy. There will be setbacks. There will be nights when it all feels too heavy again. But each time you get back up, and each time you choose yourself, you are winning. you are growing, and you are alive. And one day you will look back and realize that the darkness you feared was the very thing that taught you how strong you are. That the heartbreak you endured was the fire that forged you. That every tear and every sleepless night, every moment you thought you were alone, was building the person you were always meant to be. So if you're listening right now, I want you to promise yourself something, that you will not give up on yourself, that you will choose you even when it's terrifying, and that you will rise because you were born for this. And I want you to know this. I see you, I hear you, and I feel you. And you're not alone, not ever. From the pain we are born, from the heartbreak we are born, from the darkness we are born. And you are born to rise. So thank you for being here with me today, for sharing this space, for allowing me to share my story with you. If this episode stirs something in you, if it brought you your own pain or experiences, I want to hear from you. If you need someone to listen, to process it with, send me a message. I would love to hear your story, your struggles, and your strength. In the description of this episode, I will also include the link to the book I mentioned today. And remember, every Friday there's a new episode. And next week, I sit down with the most important woman in my life, mi mamá, my mother. And this episode is called I Cared for You with Fear and Love. Te cuidé con miedo y amor. Because behind every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every hard choice she made, there was both fear and love. And we talk about what it meant for her to raise me as a daughter of immigrants, the weight she carried, the dream she held, and the moment she didn't know if she was strong enough, but still chose to fight for me. This is not just my story, it's hers too. It's the story of so many madres, moms, who love with everything they have, even when they're afraid. So next week, I'm opening the mic for her. Raw, vulnerable, and filled with the love that shaped me, so you can't miss it. Now I will leave you with this. Healing doesn't erase the pain, but it turns what once broke us into the wings we need to rise. Thank you for listening to No Me Callo, I Won't Stay Quiet. My name is Jessica Lomelin. Until next time.